She got my back.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew an alternate jumpsuit. So if this is something you like, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's dive right into today's video. So now to start sewing, here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to cut it out. So at the lower part I added ½ inch on it, and on the other part of this I did not. So for the front pattern I cut the front pattern on fold. So I'll go ahead to notch where I have my darts, so that when I'm sewing this I won't have any issue looking for my dart lines. So this is the neckline and this is basically what I have. So I'll go ahead and sew my darts and I'll turn the side of the two armhole with a bias. You can go ahead to sew this with also a lining. So at the lower part is serving as my joining allowance, and also remember that I'm going to turn the armhole with bias. So here is my pattern for the back, and I added ½ inch below and ½ inch on top. That is the only place you're going to add ½ inch. Now you're also going to mark your dart lines. So on this pattern I don't exactly have a dart on it, so to add my dart to it I will just go ahead to take my front pattern, or you can just go ahead to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 away from your zipper line. But to make it easier, I'm going to place my pattern on my fabric this way, and I'm just going to go ahead to mark out the dart areas and fold up the upper part and the lower part with bias. So here is my fabric, and I've gone ahead to fold the armhole area of this pattern with bias. I made bias out of my fabric, so you can just use your ordinary bias, make bias from your fabric, or turn it up with your lining. So next is the back also, and I've gone ahead to fold the upper part only with a bias too. I made bias from my fabric. You can just use your regular bias or turn it up with lining. So after that I went ahead to pin out my zipper allowance, which is about 1 inch. So as you can see, this is my zipper allowance and I pinned it out. Now after pinning it out, you're going to place the front at the back. So now after placing this, you're going to go ahead to pin it down, and we'll insert the measurement. So to insert my body measurement, so to impute my measurement, I'm going to place my tape this way. So my shoulder to waistline is 17 inches plus ½ inch for joining allowance. That is 17.5. Make sure you get that your shoulder to waist plus half. So mine is 17 inches. I'm just going to place my tape. After I'm done placing my tape, the next step, you notice that your neckline is exactly at 3 inches. So I'll mark my shoulder to bust, which is 9, and shoulder to under bust, which is 12. The rest I'm going to use it at the lower part as my waist circumference. So I'm going to measure out here. What I have is about 22 inches. So my bust circumference is 33 divided by 2. I have 16.5. So taking out 22 minus 16.5, I have 5.5. So I'll divide that 5.5 and share it on both sides, and I will impute my measurement. Going down to the under bust, I'm going to measure what I have at the under bust. So I'm going to place my tape on that point. So what I have here is about 19 inches. So my under bust is 28 divided by 2. 28 divided by 2, I have 14. So that 19 inches minus 14, I have 5 inches left. So that 5 inches, I will divide it on both sides. That's 2.5, 2.5 on both sides of my under bust. On the waistline, I have exactly 17 inches, and my waist circumference is 28 divided by 2. 28 divided by 2, I have 14. So I'll do 17 minus 14, I have 3 inches. So that means I'll be having 1.5 inches on both sides. So from there, I'll place my tape and mark that 14 inches. I'll go ahead and connect. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch this down. After I'm done stitching down, this is what I have on my pattern. So now to work on the trouser part, I'm just going to go ahead to unpin it. So first I'm going to start with joining the front pattern. So I'm going to join my trouser separately, just like I did for the upper part. So I'll stitch with ½ inch all the way to the lower part. So on the back also, I'll go ahead and stitch all the way to the lower part. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. So for the back, I left about 7 inches, which will serve as my zipper for the lower part, because this is a jumpsuit. So next, I'm going to place the front pattern on it. So in this jumpsuit, you're not going to insert any measurements. All you're just going to do is stitch with ½ inch or 1 inch. So by the side, I'm just going to go ahead to stitch with ½ inch from the beginning down to the end of my fabric. So make sure that the side matches. So after stitching it to the end, I'm going to go ahead to fold the lower part with ½ inch. On the other side also, I'm just going to go ahead to place it this way, and I'll stitch it with ½ inch, and I'll fold the lower part, the 1 inch or 2 inches you added to it at the lower part, go ahead to fold it out. So I'm done, and this is what I have. I've gone ahead to join the both sides, and I have folded the lower part. So all I'm going to do now is just to go ahead to place this together, and I'll stitch with ½ inch all the way. So just like I said, this jumpsuit, you don't have to insert your measurements because it's a free jumpsuit. At the center, this part at the center, you must make sure that it matches. If it doesn't match, that means that there was an error while you were cutting your trouser, the trouser part of your jumpsuit. So this is it. After I'm done sewing the upper part, I will be placing the lower part together, and I will join with ½ inch. So to join this lower part, you know that our waistline we use on the trouser is our hip circumference. So now we are going to go ahead to make sure that it fits, the lower part and the upper part fits. So now go ahead to fold the upper part, find the center of the top of the jumpsuit. So for the trouser, we have a joining already, so you don't need to go ahead or notch. So what I'm going to do now, so this part is actually very tricky, so you have to pay attention. Now at the center of the joining that I have at the front, you're going to place it to that part, and you're going to go ahead to pin it. You're going to work with your pin at this point. So after doing that, remember on this trouser we have a fold, but first we are going to make sure that the sides meet. So pin the side of your trouser to the side of your top. So if you have any excess, just leave it. We are going to create a pleat on that part this way. So on the other side also, I'll take the joining at the side and place on the joining at the side of the top this way, and I'm also going to go ahead to pin it down. So after I'm done pinning it, I'll also repeat the same process for the back of this jumpsuit this way. Go ahead and pin the ends together because you also have a pleat at the back and also at the front of the trouser. But for me, mine wasn't too much because I don't want my trouser to be too big. So now I'm going to go ahead to pin the end also. So after pinning down, go ahead to fold the excess that you have on that part. If you're confused on this part, and you're also going to go ahead to pin. So now we are trying to go ahead to create a pleat just like we have in front of the trouser. So take the excess that you have on the waistline of your trouser and go ahead to fold it this way, and then you're just going to go ahead to pin it. So on the other side of your trouser, you're going to go ahead to repeat the same thing also. So after you're done pinning, this is what you have. So also repeat the same process at the back of your trouser, where you'll be creating a pleat or fold just like we have here. So going over to the back, I'm just going to also pin out the excess I have on that point this way, on that part, sorry, this way, and I'll take my pin to pin it down. And I'll also go ahead to repeat this at the other side of the waistline of my jumpsuit. This is just to create that pleat effect we have at the front and at the back of the jumpsuit. So after I'm done pinning this out, the next step is just to go ahead and go over to the sewing machine and stitch with ½ inch all the way down. So after I'm done stitching, this is my jumpsuit and I've gone ahead to iron it out, and this is what I have. So next, then we are going to go ahead to create the collar or the band for the neckline of this dress. So we are going to go ahead to fold the neckline area this way, and you're going to notch the center. So after you're done notching the center, you're going to go ahead to cut out for your collar or band. So here I have 5 inches by 45. So I'm going to use that to create the band for the neckline or collar piece, whatever you call it. So before I do that, I'll also fold this, find the center, and I will notch. Now I'll place the notched part on the notched part of the neckline, that is right side facing the right side, the right side of the fabric facing the right side of the band. So I'm just going to stitch on that neckline with 1/2 inch. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. So now I'm just going to fold this with 1/2, and then I'll use it to cover up that neckline we have at the back. So now you'll be working with your pin, and I'm just going to go ahead to get my pin, and I'm just going to go ahead to pin it all the way to where my neckline stops. So after I'm done pinning it, now we're going to sew the remaining part of this dress, and to do that you're going to fold the remaining part with 1/2 inch. But first you're going to stitch here, stitch on that part that you use in joining the first one. So from that part you're going to fold in here with 1/2 inch, and you're going to top stitch. You're going to continue top stitching till you get to the end and fold it in to have a neat finishing at the end. And also here, fold in here with 1/2 inch 1/2 inch, and go ahead to top stitch to the end. So after I'm done top stitching, I'm just going to go ahead to insert my zip at the back. So I actually made a little band for this trouser for the waistline. So now this is the final result of this dress. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us in our next tutorial. Thanks.